Yeah, so this is just going to be a quick crash course on how to do Node.js development. Super simple. If you've never done it before, this would be how you get started. If you've done it a lot, sorry. But first, just a little bit about me. I work for a company called PHS, Professional Health Services. We help people that have healthcare needs. We sell mostly to employers. I know that some of you have had this service before, software or something like that. Anyway, also, I started doing Node.js about 2.5 years ago. Before that, I had mostly done .NET. I really fell in love with Node. So creating a new project. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to install Node.js. If you have Linux, I recommend building it. Don't just use like your Yum package or whatever as the versions. You might know. I get a lot of place stairs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You just download.
Yeah, download
the binary.
Yeah. So I do a little bit on Linux. We deploy to Linux, but as you see, I get a Windows machine to work, and so I download Node.js and I don't build it, but when I'm on like Ubuntu or Amazon Linux or whatever, I try to use the Yum package manager. I tried that with Node, didn't have the best experience. So anyway, I did that.
Doesn't stay up to date.
No, it doesn't stay up to date. So into init. So basically what you do is you create a folder, and once you've got Node installed, Node npm should be available on the command or on the path. So you type npm init, creates a package.json, and you'll have an entry point file, some JavaScript file, and you call Node on that file, and that'll start it up. All right, so demo 1. So let's see here. All right, and let's see here. All right, so this is the example that's been on the Node.js.org website since forever. And when I first, like I said, about 2.5 years ago, I was like, I had a friend who's like, JavaScript is it kind of guy, and he was trying to convince me to do like, I don't know, I was doing Silverlight at the time. He laughed at me a lot, made fun of me, and then he's like, dude, have you seen this like Node stuff? And I was like, no. And this was probably like the 0.4 days or something like that. And he's like, you gotta check this out. It's like Node on the server. I was like, what does that even mean? Or it's like JavaScript on the server. I was like, what does that even mean? So anyway, some time goes by, and I'm standing here like looking at this thing, and then one day, like it kind of clicked in my mind. Like the whole async, and it just made sense. So anyway, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna call Node on this file, and we're gonna watch this thing run. All right, so it's running over here. Hello world. Easy peasy. So. What you can see here is I require HTTP, which is a module that's available inside of Node by default. And then I create a server, I pass a function. The first parameter is request, the second parameter is response. And I'm going to obviously write the head, and then write the body, hello world, and close it. And that's going to actually send the response. And I bind my server that I just created to 1337 on the interface loopback, and that just logs it down. Any questions? Super simple? Yeah. All right, next one.
I got a question. You go back to the
Yeah.
Do you, I guess, create server returns an object which you just really don't care about?
Yeah. I think it does.
Okay. Because I didn't know if that was like, if it has a self-referential thing that jQuery does, like in terms of like, oh, I'm just going to return.
No, I believe it does return a server object, and you can say like server.port or server.address and things like that and see what's bound on.
Oh, so you could like do extra things with it besides just listen.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
save
you're talking
it
about the
to
create
a
server?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, technically it's called listening. It's the,
Right.
it's the
Yeah,
response.
that's exactly right. The big thing that you'll see people do when they're first start doing Node is they don't think asynchronously, and so just because a function returns an object what happens is, as soon as they fall beyond that line 6 or whatever, and they don't, or even, they may put it to like var server or whatever, and the code just completes. And then the callback is invoked, and, or some other code somewhere else is invoked, or whatever. It's that object may not be in scope. You may use it, but the important thing to just note about this is that callback is what's handling the future processing. Clear spot?
Yeah, it's not like wrapped in a promise or any other.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It's not wrapped in like a promise or any other crazy stuff.
No, so that's another thing is, promises were inside the Node core for a little bit, and then they kind of went out, and now it seems like V4, they're coming back and have the option of callbacks for promises. That's right. They'll hold me to it.
I haven't looked at it before yet. I hope so.
Yeah.
Promises are awesome.
I was kind of like, I like promises, but I wasn't like, oh man, I can only use promises. People are like, callback hell, I'm like, callback heaven, I don't care. It's good enough for me. Yeah, he's got the squiggle face. And so, I like callbacks. I think I like promises more. I do a lot of Node, and as long as the code is structured well enough, it's not the biggest deal, but when you have like a lot of different places where exceptions can occur and you want to handle that gracefully, definitely promises will save you. Anyway, next thing. All right, so leveraging NPM. So there is an NPM registry. You can go to npm.js.com and you can look up stuff. There's gazillions of packages out there, and sometimes it's hard to know what to pick. I definitely use stars and GitHub to help me. And the last time the project was updated, stuff like that, try to compare. Anyway, so you'll say npm install the name of that package. If you want to only be a dev dependency, you can use -save-dev, and that will put it into a separate part, the package.json, so that you can divide how you want to ship stuff in production. If you install some module-g, we'll install it globally so that you'll need like task runner type of tools or whatever that you might share across projects. NPM scripts, this is kind of a cool thing. You can say like npm install something or whatever, just npm install. And when that's done installing, it can run another script to kind of help you out. Like if you're using a front-end package manager like Bower or JSPM or whatever, it can go behind you and clean up that stuff. One thing is, Node.js will be a part of Node v4, or is a part of Node v4, I believe, but it basically will do, so Node is built on top of C++, and some things have to be, they're called like native modules, and they leverage C++, and those have to be compiled for whatever you're on. Like if you're on Windows or Linux or whatever. If you're on the Linux machine, obviously you have GCC, but if you're on a Windows machine, you'll need to install the Microsoft C++ executable, and then Node.js will work. Oh, you'll need Python too, and then it'll all work. I like it though. All right, demo 2. Okay, so here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So you can type npm init, it's going to create this package.json. You see I've got some scripts here. So post install, it's going to run Bower update. Pre-start, it will run npm update. I can have a test script that right now returns an error because I don't have a test script. Here's where I divided my dependencies and dev dependencies. So Express is a web framework, or framework for processing requests, and my dev dependencies are for test utilities that I'm not going to demonstrate today.
Does, going back to the slide, does the --save on npm modify package.json?
Yeah, so that -save-dev will put it down to dev dependencies, and -save just shoves it in the regular dependencies.
Okay.
And let's look at this index.js real quick. One thing that you'll kind of see pretty often is this structure. This isn't really so much for like web projects. This is really more about just like shipping modules. You'll see that there's a index.js file in the root of the project, and then you'll have a lib folder that actually contains the real code. Inside of here, yeah. So I have Express installed, whatever, some other stuff. Yeah, so there's http.create server, I turn the server, and then in the callback here, I say what I'm listening on if the server successfully binds. Okay, it's fired up. All right, so basically what I did here is I've got this routes.js file, and this is all using Express, so I just have a static folder, a static files folder, like HTML and front-end JavaScript and stuff like that, and then I say anything that's not a path that goes to a static file, let's just return basically index.js, or the index.html file anyway. So, kind of like a typical SPA setup, define the entry point of the application, so the bootstrap. And let's look at that what the index.html looks like. Public, HTML, real numbers again. Easy peasy. Questions? No? Alright. Next one. Yeah, so conventions. So async non-blocking I/O. Sometimes I'll see guys that try to write synchronous code, and it doesn't work for a whole slew of reasons. But one of the biggest ones is if you actually were to get that code to work, basically, because it's not multi-threaded, a second request that's coming into your web server will be blocked by your code that's executing. And if you have a bunch of synchronous I/O, which is so Brian Dahl, he's the guy that created Node, and if you haven't heard him talk, he's kind of cool. He's kind of he's a smart guy, and he talks like he's smart, and he's pretty smart. But basically, he made some measurements, and he said referencing the object memory is like 1 millisecond or whatever, or 1 nanosecond or something like that. He's like, network I/O is like 300,000 times that speed. Or 300,000 times as well. And so the basic idea is that instead of trying to create multiple threads, which is very expensive, so that you can process multiple web requests at once or multiple requests at once, just make it all asynchronous and then have it call you back, and then you don't pay for creating more threads. So Node.js all runs on one thread. Highly performant. We do, at my company, we do a lot of Node.js, and we do it for this very reason. You'll also see error first callbacks in case that you don't use promises. Very typical convention is that the first argument comes back will be an error, and the rest will be the rest of the arguments that will return when the callback is invoked. So you'll see a lot of times when a function is returning or calling back the callee, it will call null, comma, and then the rest of the stuff it will return.
Is that just to keep the interface consistent, so you don't worry about I got null to end versus
Yep, that's exactly right. And then you may have seen over here, so require./lib, but lib points to a folder, right? So inside of index.js, I require ./lib. If you do that, you see that going on. Node expects a index.js file to be inside that folder as a convention. Yeah. So if you're looking at code out there and you're like, what does this even go to? It's because of that.
So what bootstraps that to make it actually do something?
So if you look inside, like if you were to, I should have added a slide in here about debugging. But if you were to debug, require is going to go into a block of code, and that is going to maintain all the modules that it has referenced. And it, by convention, says, hey, if this is a directory, look for the index.js file. And then once those modules are loaded, they all stay up memory. So all that stuff gets cached.
So what triggers, we were to run Node on this folder, what is it? So I'm used to Ruby where it's require is you get true or false document to know whether or not the thing actually loaded. So what in requiring the lib folder actually makes something work?
Oh, I think I know what you're saying. So,
So where's the,
Node
where's
is
the
supposed
code
to
that
have
gets run that
Yeah.
says, hey, here's the yes, you're exporting all these modules, whatever. What's the thing that says like the name or whatever you want to call it that says here's do this after you load all this stuff.
It's the index.js.
Right.
file.
So
Well,
does it just
you can
as a
specify
parse
the
the code and then
So
run
it doesn't really run anything by default. It just pulls all this stuff into your context so you have access to it.
Right.
So you have
Yeah,
access to
So if you write code that runs,
Yeah, so
as
if
part
you're
of
here,
that
so
required,
this is
and
the
then it
entry
works.
point.
well,
Yeah, so this is the entry point to my application.
right?
And I just redirected that call into another file. So let's look at what that file is.
I may have missed where that actually happened in the file.
Well, and the thing is too, you gotta remember, like with JavaScript, like as it's reading the file, it's executing all. Like the ones that are defined like function log errors is just creating that function. But eventually, when he gets to the part where he's creating the server, it executes that like as it's reading.
Okay,
it.
so it's just
so
a matter
that's
of
actually doing that.
Parse
Yeah.
time, it's going through, it's running it all.
Yeah, it's not looking for like a main or anything
Okay.
like that. It's,
yeah,
it's
so you
reading
see
the file.
here, he just has like.
So if you just threw console
function
out in here,
execution.
as soon as you start, it would fire those out as soon as
Okay,
you
so it's just like Ruby, where if you just wrote code and
Yeah,
ran it with
yeah.
Ruby, it's the same sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should know if there was some sort of special, because like with Ruby, you get a special convention, it's like lib, and then everything's defined in the lib.
Right, and then like Java and stuff, like it's actually looking
Right,
for
unless you,
something.
exactly, but if you're writing like a Ruby gem, unless you actually do something in the Ruby gem that says run some code, you're not actually doing anything, you're just defining all the
Yeah,
crap, for lack
that's
of
a
a
great
better
point.
term.
So what will happen is if I didn't like bind to a server or didn't do anything like legitimate,
You just
it
quit
would just
nothing.
exit right back
Oh.
out. Yeah. Yeah. Because I bound to an interface
Right.
and I have a web server that's running now, it knows to stay up.
Okay.
And that's just the smarts of how it's written.
Right.
There's no like internal like I don't have like a
It's a scripting language, so whatever you write, it runs just as it goes through it.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right, so publishing. So I published a couple packages. It's really quite simple. npm publish // it'll prompt you for your credentials from npm.js.org or .com or whatever this is. .com. It will want you to follow Ember, so major, minor, and all that. If you try to publish the same version twice, it'll throw an error. You can also just use like,
Can you pull stuff off? Like, oh, this one was bad.
yeah, I have not had to do that, but I'm pretty sure you can. I've had to unregister stuff. I think it's Bower unregister. They're basically the same.
Okay.
So I've had to unregister stuff from a Bower package I published.
I'm just trying to wrap like npm things into Ruby gem things. So, like Ruby gems, if you publish a gem and it's bad, you can actually yank it so nobody else downloads it. And then obviously the best practice is to publish another one
Yeah,
like
you
right
can
away.
publish a node package that's been published out to the repository. I mean, it'll let you do that if you ever republish, but that version number can never be reused.
Right, yeah, that's the whole point.
So if you publish it again under the same name, it's going to have a version bump. Preferably a minor version, not a
Yeah,
fixed
definitely.
version. But it doesn't enforce that.
Okay.
But it will tell you, I mean, it'll tell you really big on the screen. You can do this, but if anybody's using it, you're about to screw them. If you ever want to republish this version number can never, ever be reused.
Right.
And as you were talking about, obviously, too, when you try to publish in the same one, it won't let you because they don't want people who had code against a version to have that shipped out from underneath it
Right,
later
right.
because something else got published with it, etc. But yeah, that's all baked in.
Package release module common sense at that point, yeah.
Yeah, there's a, since I'm talking, sorry, there's another NPM library as well called version that'll go and bump the version of your file for you automatically.
Okay.
Like you can tell this is the
It
version
hooks
I want,
into the
and then
publish-
it'll just make file
Okay.
changes on your behalf, but you can script it all. So you can just say, oh, whatever the script is, and it'll bump it all, then it'll do publish, and then it'll do, and it follows the same for all that piece. As you said, there's gazillions of these packages out there. Why aren't you getting how you want?
Right. That's the thing that always boggles me whenever I try to install something that uses like npm. Like, why are you downloading 500 million packages, right?
Yeah, that gets it's a little bit crazy.
Micro libraries, and you
Yeah.
hope they're micro.
Yeah. So
Emphasis on micro, right?
I've actually had the problem where I'm trying to like push code very quickly, and the packages that, and it like some of the packages use other packages that are also used by other packages, but the way Node modules work, unless you collapse, and I can't remember what the term is.
Oh,
Yeah, what is that?
There's
Shrink
something-
wrap. Shrink wrap.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Anyway, unless you were to like collapse them down, you'll have copies of them over and over and over again in all these different modules that you can reference.
Yeah, you can have a couple hundred megs of
Oh man,
stuff.
it's
in
crazy.
your
Like,
modules.
man, this is taking forever. You know. Anyway, so the other thing you can use GitHub. So like I've run the situation before where I didn't like somebody's code or there's a bug or something like that. The guy would just seems to be kind of like unresponsive. Just fork it, and then what I'll do is I'll do my development. I'll point my package.json to my own GitHub repository, my own GitHub repository, and get it up and running. Issue the PR. If he never responds or whatever, then I don't know what I'll do. I'll do something else. Task runners. So if you've not used Grunt's an old one, and then for scaffolding, VM1 is still on top of Grunt. We use Gulp and Slush. I've got a little example of using Gulp.
So is Grunt basically deprecated?
No, people still use it. The big difference back in the day was Grunt was very much a configuration tool, and Gulp was very much a configuration tool. Gulp followed like the node callback sort of style, so you wouldn't have like these massive like JavaScript objects that had like all these keys on it that were defining different tasks. You could just pipe one through another, through another, through another, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like right now. So here I'm basically defining what tasks are going to be available on the command line. And then down here you'll see that I'm saying like glob, all these JavaScript files under this directory or whatever, and then pipe them over to this other directory. Quite simply, here's some more piping. This is basically going to call increment install for me. Down here, this was a little bit more configuration-y, but what's going to happen under the hood is it's just going to pipe all the files through a less compiler and then a CSS minifier, and this can concatenate them all together. Same thing down here.
And then those are like for Rest and JS, those are just task dependencies?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I defined those at the very top, and there they are. Yeah,
Okay. So they're Gulp add-ons, and then they just get defined.
Yeah, so I wrote that Gulp ng annotate. No, I didn't. Not that one. Gulp asset transform. I did not write the Gulp ng annotate. That thing's pretty awesome though. If you are into that, which I do a lot. But I did write that Gulp asset transform. I'm pretty proud of that. That was my foray into how Gulp works. Anyway, the first time it runs is a little bit slow. After that, it's actually really fast. I think it's fast. Wait a second. Like I said, first time it's not fast. Second time it's a little faster.
What is it transforming?
It will take all of my JavaScript. It will make it min safe for Angular stuff, and then it will concatenate it all together and ugrify it, and then replace. So, do y'all use like the module loader type of things, or y'all probably use like asset pipeline stuff?
No, we use, Ember CLI uses ES6 modules now. We use
Yeah.
Babel for trans.
Yeah, so this is really cool, but this was before that. All right, so the thing that I didn't like, so I've used Browserify and some of the other things. The thing I didn't like was
Ember CLI kind of defaults back to AMD style modules. So like require.js, that kind of stuff.
yeah, okay. So the thing I didn't like was when I'm in my dev environment, or debugging or anything like that, everything would be concatenated together. I had like this one giant JavaScript file, and you can get around that in Ruby, right? Like asset pipelines. I don't know what's funny about Ruby, but I had these arguments with one of my friends.
Yeah, you can use source maps for your like Chrome tools, DevTools for debugging and Chrome dev.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I know about source maps. I don't know about that. I've done like TypeScript in the browser with source maps, but I've not done concatenation. Like if I don't want all my JavaScript files concatenated together,
You can concatenate all of your files together, and then you can use a source map to tell DevTools like, hey, this part of the file, this part of this one huge file is really a separate file.
Okay.
So when you go to your DevTools,
you'll have your dev tree all laid out,
Okay,
but it's all kind of faked up.
cool. So I didn't do that. I'll show you what I did do. Yeah, so I just have these little directives, these comment directives. And basically I'm just saying like everything within here, just pipe that through my less processor, and everything down there, pipe it through my JS processor. And what's gonna happen is after it's done building, it's gonna come out looking like that. So I just have some site CSS, it's all packaged up, and you see I packed a little fingerprint on my JS so that I can bust my cache if I want. And this, I only do this when I should. So when I'm local, it's all piecemeal. Thanks. Yeah, and it's out there on YouTube if you want.
You can just start to.
No, I've also done some stuff with JS. Have y'all seen JSPN? That stuff is awesome. So it can like read like CommonJS or AMD require, whatever, ES6 modules, all of that, and it can keep it all separate for you, and it can bundle it. Like you can just fire command says bundle, and it'll drop the bundle for you. Oh man, awesome. I prefer blank to JavaScript. So I
have one more question, sorry.
Yeah.
If you were just to run gulp on the command line where it's server, since you said we can follow the watch.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
I didn't know if build was required or if that was just the step that you wanted to run.
Yeah, build was the step I wanted to run.
itself.
So default's keyword here. So if I just type gulp, it's going to fire up a watch for me.
Okay.
And every time my files change, it can like reload.
Regenerate all that stuff.
Yeah, it can reload like a little live server that I have running that will, and it can like open up the browser, the page or whatever. It can also run like test code that I have. So like as I'm typing, it's like constantly testing my stuff. And then here I defined another one called build, and it's going to execute all those tasks down there. And you can have tasks that depend on other tasks and all that.
Is watch like a built-in for gulp?
Gulp, yeah, Gulp watch is built in.
I just didn't know like how many of these were like gulp convention versus like, oh, this is a custom one because it's custom. I have to specify it. Right?
Yeah, so there's actually this thing out there called like Gulp blacklist or whatever. You just type Gulp blacklist, it'll take you to the Gulp, like the main whatever, and it will show you like, hey, you don't need to do this because it's already built in, or duplicate some other one out there that's much better or whatever.
Got it.
Anyway.
Yeah. As far as, like, well, I was just going to tell you about it's like two Rails and stuff. You know, like, a lot of times, like, if you pull in a gem you want to use, like, it'll have something you can do in config, like, in your environment file, whatever. A lot of that stuff's kind of like that, too. Like, some of them are, like, one line, like, really easy. And some of them have a lot more configuration options, and you can get as deep as you want.
Okay.
So, depends on which ones you're using.
Cool.
All right, so, yeah, so I got a bunch of errors. I did this, the last time I've experimented with TypeScript was about a year ago, and I tried to slap this together like at midnight last night. And I got it working, but for whatever reason, I use WebStorm at work, and for whatever reason, WebStorm doesn't like it, and I'm not sure why. But basically, what's going to happen is it's going to create the corollary JavaScript file for my TypeScript file, and it knows what these modules are that I'm pulling in from like Node itself by using this type definition stuff that is all part of TypeScript. So basically, there's like an npm for TypeScript, and it's going to create a typings folder, which is very much like a Node modules folder, and it's going to have all these definition files and stuff like that to say like this is how TypeScript maps to JavaScript or whatever. Anyway, and then it's supposed to all like update the code in real time, because I had this all working before, like I said, about a year ago, and it was on a different computer too. And so as I was typing, it would like update my JavaScript files. It doesn't work, but I can do this tsc index.ts and come on, it needs to think. This is like a $2,000 machine too.
So what's the
We might be the operating system.
I don't think it's the operating system. I think it's so we outsourced our IT infrastructure. And anyway, so boom, yeah, there it is. Came back. Anyway, that's that one there. Not much to it.
It's hard to tell just from the example that you have, but what's the biggest difference between TypeScript and JavaScript? Other than that little import keyword that I saw there versus...
Oh yeah, so TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. So all that is JavaScript, JavaScript ES6, ES7 is TypeScript. In fact, a lot of the conventions that are coming into ES6 and ES7 are promoted by TypeScript as well. So like add component, add whatever. TypeScript is strongly typed, not weakly typed, so it will give you compile time errors.
Okay.
It is also, you're able to add in type safety as much as you like. Have you seen flow typing from Facebook? That's pretty rad too.
Now you said strong typing versus static typing versus weak typing, and I immediately went to like Gary Bernhardt and how to use your TypeScript, which is the talk that he did that makes fun of the whole static typing, strong typing versus weak typing, all of those things.
So yeah, I'm definitely not a person that thinks strong typing is a replacement for like unit tests, where a lot of people that are like, no, how can you write a dynamic language? How do you know it works? Well, anyway, but I still think TypeScript is pretty cool. The example I did previously, I really liked. I was like, man, this is actually really cool because you can actually come behind a function and be like, I expect something of like type request or whatever, and it will like know how to inspect that thing so that when you reference that later, like inside your code, it can give you like intelligence and stuff. Anyway, there is some pretty cool stuff about it, and because you can do like interfaces and say like, I don't care what the object is as long as it has like, if it quacks like a duck, that's all I care about, you know?
Right.
It can do all that stuff, but with compile type safety, but you can also not leverage that if you don't want. You know, you can just add as much as possible. I thought it was
like
pretty cool.
optional type safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But ES6 is also really cool, and I like that a lot. So if you're doing that, I think that's pretty awesome. Last but not least, sales. All right, so you will need to install the Grunt CLI and Grunt itself, and then you'll type sales new and some project name, and then you can type sales lift. And it'll give you like some boilerplate stuff like that to kind of like see this cipher. Has anyone done sales before? Yeah. Yeah. So I did like the beginnings of an API. It scaffolds really quickly, so I thought that was really cool. It comes with an Aura built in to waterline. It's not great. It's okay. Sales has a lot of traction right now, so I think that maybe it'll get a lot better. It comes with like things that a lot of Ruby guys are familiar with, like policies and blueprints. And, only need to add what you need because the default behaviors are already there for you and stuff like that. It's built on Express.js, so if you're familiar with Express, or if you look back to demo 2, you'll see some Express code. You'll see kind of how they are similar. So I've actually already typed. I've already done new project. So, and here, like, gives you some other stuff, where is it? Sales generate API user. So I've actually already done that. So let's go over here. I think if I just go to /user, yeah, if you're ready. So it already knew to like hook into, I think it probably uses like SQLite or something because I have to define like a real database or whatever. But it's already like hooked into it. It provides collection or whatever. Anyway, this is like really quick to do. I've done a little bit more with sales before, but just want to show you how easy it is to get started in case you're curious. Yeah. All right, that's it. So the code from this is there. And yeah, that's all I got. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, I do too.
All right.
So you commented, made me think about earlier, we're talking about debug. So obviously you don't have a console because you're not running the browser context, etc. But when you're trying to log things out, you just get, bracket object, and then you're having to do a bunch of stuff. You find another library, you're trying to, whatever. Is there any sort of, I know you have to install like a library, but is there any sort of development or debugging environment or library that you would have to install?
Node Inspector?
Yeah.
Much better.
Node Inspector.
Yeah. Use that all the time.
It'll use the Chrome DevTools for your debugging.
Oh, that's exactly right. So, yeah, as you know, Node's supposed to talk to the V8 engine, so it's a natural fit for...
Even from the command line you can use that?
Yeah, I've used it to debug Ember add-ons.
You want to see it real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah, you can debug like the Ember.
Like when you're playing with the trees in Ember, for example,
Yes.
I just want to pull my brains out.
Yeah.
Because the command line is not helpful.
It's not easy. And I was actually trying to do it today, and I hadn't done it in a couple months, and I was running into some issues. But I've done it before. We just put like a debug statement in your index.js inside an add-on, and you can.
Oh, in that case, you're talking about you actually have an app. If you're writing just pure Node stuff, it would not. I mean, I guess you
Check
always
this out.
have the browser.
Check this out. So, you see it. So Node-debug index.js. The other option is to, sometimes you need to actually launch the debugger ahead of schedule and then launch your app separately, and then you'll have to like, whatever. Anyway. So do this. It takes just a second to fire up. You see it's actually opening up Chrome, and there I got a breakpoint like right off the bat. And this is going to be the entry point into like how Node is going to start running. I'm just going to go ahead and hit.
Put a breakpoint on like line 4.
Yeah. Play.
So-
And so it's up and running now, and I'm going to go over here and say, boom, and see down there. Anyway, so I've got a little prompt that says, hey, you're on a debug point, a breakpoint. Come over here. I've got a line. I can hover over my object if I inspect it or whatever, figure out the dumb mistake I just made.
Yeah, because I was trying to dig through JS.doc, AST, tree nodes, and
That sounds like no.
tens of thousands of lines. It's insane. So in that case, I was writing locally, but given the setup we have in software, let's say you run on a DevApp, for example, can you, because you're hitting localhost, like can you get the debugger to fire up when you're on a remote server?
Yes. So
you can specify the port that it runs on.
So I've not tried this, but there's like articles out there on doing debugging with Node Inspector.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can see up there, you can see what port it's connected on.
One thing though, you got to be real careful because this, so it's on a breakpoint right now. The Node process is stopped, and it only has one thread. So every other user, like if you do this in production, every other user is going to not get a single request served because you just stopped everything.
And if you just close your browser and walk away, you've left the process. Follows it on?
Yeah.
Or does it let itself go?
No, it'll stay forever.
So that kind of leads into my question is, I've never used Node in production as a server, so what kind of DevOps do you, because like Node is just single threaded, we all have multi-core processors, so you're probably going to want like 4 threads started up, and you're going to have something to watch the thread to see if it got hung to restart the thread, right? Are you very familiar with the Node DevOps side?
Yeah, so, well, there's several things. So,
Or to see, like sometimes the thread will crash, or like the Node instance will crash.
yeah,
It needs
so-
to be restarted.
Yeah, okay, so a handful of things. So one, Node supports clustering within itself really easily. So you can say like, this is a master, this is a child worker. I need to spin up like as many as there are cores because you only want one per core really.
Yeah.
and then it will just expand them all, and it can do round robin request routing within itself.
So you just it'll like fork process or something.
Yeah, and it will just start issuing. Process-to-process communication with a node is really simple. It's very much like Nix style sort of piping between processes, but with JSON, and it's kind of nice. It's like really nice.
Is that the case where, so it used to be for Ruby apps, you would start like four processes all running on different ports, and then you would aggregate that together with like Nginx?
No, it's not
or
like
is it
that.
all basically? You have to modify your code in order to get that clustering.
Yeah. So what you would do, like in this situation, I could have in that file right there. I would say, I'd define a master and a function that defines a child worker, and I would say, give me like 4 of those, and it will create 4 servers, and they'll all bind to the same place.
Right.
But the master knows how to like route that between these child processes.
Okay.
So you don't actually have to put Nginx for it. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't use a reverse proxy in front of your data. You definitely should.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is just, if
The
you
reverse
want-
proxy doesn't have to load balance the app across 4 different instances in this case. It sends it all to the same one. And
I
Node
would say that on a single machine, there's no need to spin up 4 different processes and use Nginx to route to those 4 different on one machine,
Right.
and having like different ports or any of that. You don't need that. You just need one process bound on one port and let it work within itself to match the number of cores.
Okay.
And you just target that one machine on that one port with Nginx, and that's how you achieve like scale.
Okay.
It's really simple to do. Perhaps just showing the code would be simpler than me explaining, really.
I should know, like, if does Express do that for you, or does it place a limit on you? Hey, I only run one server per process, therefore you must.
Express is downstream from that.
Okay.
So it's really just going to be a request routing framework.
Right. I'm just trying to compare.
So are there any frameworks out right now that have kind of standardized, like community standardized, like, hey, this library does that master child
You
process?
don't Node itself. You don't need that.
Yeah.
It's I really probably should just show the code because it's like
Live coding.
Do it.
I'll
Do it.
It's been I haven't done this in a little bit, but so the other thing is we do run on Windows machines. Some stuff goes to Linux, some stuff goes to Windows. On Windows we use IIS, and IIS will restart our processes for us, and it also can scale our node processes out. It actually works really well. I've also used something called Forever and NodeMon on Linux machines. Forever will basically cause the process to start up, and then NodeMon says if it crashes, bring it back.
I think I've heard of those too, and that kind of tripped me out because it's like, wow, really, it might crash, and then after a while, something to restart it. But I guess that's pretty normal. Any web server can crash.
It's not bad. I mean, what you're going to end up with a one-liner that's like Forever, NodeMon, Index.js, and when you just need to make sure that one-liner starts when the machine starts, and then that you can just bring it down and bring it back up if you need to do a code deploy. But NodeMon actually will watch your files for changes and restart as well. So it's other DevOps things. Definitely, there's monitoring stuff that you can plug in, like New Relic. To add New Relic, if you're familiar with New Relic, you used to require New Relic at the top of your app, and it just hooks in. It knows what it's doing. IBM has also some DevOps stuff built on top of the Helm stack. Yeah, so if you're a fan of Elasticsearch, like I am, and it's actually pretty cool. I just saw an article that does that. The other thing is, structured logging is like really, really valuable. I don't really care much for like the standard logs. It's just like a flat line and then a bunch of text jammed in there. I like JSON log files, and in fact, we don't even actually use log files anymore. We just ship everything to a Logstash server that's just going to aggregate all that stuff together into Elasticsearch and give us like really great views on all types of stuff. Yeah. Any other questions?
That's great, thanks.
So I'm just gonna take like 1 or 2 seconds here, and so we've been having some different speakers. Had Neil give a SaaS talk, and then we had let's What's that?
Justin gave the Firebase talk.
Yeah, I gave a Firebase talk. We had the touch events talk.
Touch events?
Yeah, touch events.
So, and so all these things, it's like, okay, what is an Ember meetup? So the point is, these all like touch up against Ember, some more than others. But we're trying to kind of branch out and say, okay, these are things that you want to be aware of, want to know how they work. So what I'm going to do is just real quick, just show a couple of brief ways, like how Node bumps up to Ember, why it's beneficial to know some of this stuff, and how it can help you. And so let me jump over here. All right, so first and foremost, Ember CLI, which, as I think Gary mentioned earlier, is kind of the way to do Ember now. You can pull it down, and then the way we do it here, just because we're still on an older version and working to get newer, is with the old format, which is where you bring it in, it's a global scope namespace for your app. It's a little bit harder to deal with, but the biggest drawback is you don't get the goodness that just comes out, like these add-ons and stuff where everything's nicely wrapped. You don't get that, so you end up having to do things differently, like just have to bring them in by hand, yeah. And so it's not as nice. But so Ember CLI is the way that they're pushing everyone. And Ember CLI itself is a Node app. And in fact, earlier when Josh was talking about when you would use like npm-g. Well, one perfect example of that is when you're installing Ember CLI, you can do it npm-g. That way, it does a couple of things. One of the things it does is it puts the executable in your path. So any directory you're in, you can do something like ember new my app, and it spins up that node process and it creates a new app. When you actually get into inside of your Node apps. So this is an Ember CLI app that I spun up about an hour before this presentation tonight. So this is just a Node app, and it's got your package JSON. It's a standardized package JSON, and that's just because of the fact, it's actually right here. And that's just because of the fact that Ember CLI is an app. When you say new, it goes through and it spins up a new Ember app for you, and it kind of gives you this default package JSON file. So that's one way, is just the fact that Ember CLI is a Node app. These add-ons. So this is a file that has all these lifecycle hooks that your add-ons go through when you go to build. So he talked about Gulp, and Ember CLI uses what's called Broccoli. And it's kind of a similar thing, though. It's a task runner. You can specify how you want to build stuff, and it builds it up. But whenever it runs it, you can build these Ember add-ons, and basically they go through all these different lifecycle hooks, and they let you tie into different parts of the build process. And what it lets you do is basically go in and manipulate the Ember app that it's being added into, however it needs to be done. So maybe you're adding some command line option. Maybe you need to add files in different places. You need to modify the build. So if it's a plugin for something like Sass, then you're going to want to process all those Sass files and pop out CSS and that sort of thing. So Ember add-ons, the entire architecture around them is built around Node, so it helps to understand Node for that point. So yes, that's what those are. So then another place that it bumps in is, I don't know how many of you guys have used Ember CLI much, but one of the cool things that they've got is the ability to create HTTP mocks. And so, a lot of times we're developing, and a lot of times when you get places, I know it's like that here, where we have a back-end team and we have a front-end team. And so sometimes the back-end team gets done with something first, and the front-end team has live working data, working API to deal with. Sometimes we'll be doing it at the same time. Sometimes the front-end will be working, and the back-end will be waiting until later to actually implement their side. And in those cases, it would be really nice. We're not on Ember CLI, so we can't do this, but it'd be really nice to have the ability to basically get that API contract agreed upon and then mock it out really quickly and easily. So Ember CLI, it's got generators just like you're familiar with Rails, and you can do an Ember generate HTTP mocks. And what that actually ends up doing is this file on the right here. It basically creates, so what I've got is I've got a real simple file here, an Ember CLI application. All it does is I make an API request to go to /person or /people, I think, and get a list of people, and then I just iterate over each one of them there on the left and spit out their name. And so it ends up generating something like this. So if I was doing this and I was like, man, that's great, but I really want a more dynamic data set. Well, let me back up a second. So if I'm doing this and I know the contract, I know I'm going to be making this API call, I know what the data is supposed to look like, but my backend's not done, I can do Ember.g HTTP mock people or person, and it'll generate this thing over here on the right, which if you look, I know that you heard Josh talk about like Express. This is just spinning up an Express route basically for that endpoint. And then whenever I do Ember serve, it's actually hooking this file into the whole server that Ember CLI is running on top of, and it gives me this data. So that's what lets me, if you look down here at the bottom is where I'm running Ember serve. So that's what lets me come here and actually run this file and get this data. And so then, as far as why it's beneficial to understand Node and NPM and all that, if I'm doing that and I decide I want a more dynamic data set, I want to test it against more dynamic things, this file over here on the left is just a Node application basically. So I can come in, and right now I've got it where I'm doing this same kind of thing we talked about earlier. Like it's a little more complex because it's actually setting up a router, but basically I've got this API endpoint I'm hooking onto. This function is the callback I give it, so anytime a request comes in, it's hitting this function and processing it. Right now I'm just saying to send out this list of people basically. But if I want, I can get rid of that. All that I'm doing here is I'm just going through, I say give me 10 random names, but more importantly what I'm doing at the top on line 3 is I'm bringing in Faker. So to do this, I did the command you talked about, I did an npm install save dev Faker, npm runs through it, installs Faker, and then I can just call require Faker. And down here I have access to it, so I can say faker.name.find names. I'll save that. Now if I start running it, I can repeat it over and over, and every time it hits that, it's just going to generate 10 random names. And so it's really trivial, really contrived, but the point is you can do some pretty cool things in here just based on the whole Node kind of infrastructure. You can use any packages you need to. And that's just for a mock server on Ember CLI. Obviously, you can also use Node for the entire back end of your Ember app if you want. So there's a lot of surface area overlap on Node and Ember CLI, and a lot of different ways you can use it in tie-in, but since Ember CLI is a Node app, pretty much anything you're doing inside your actual app, other than writing specific files that are going to be delivered to the browser, is going to be based in Node's architecture. So it's good to know, good to learn, and pretty fun. It's fun. I think it's fun to work with. So anyways, that's all I've got. Unless anyone has any questions or anything, I think that pretty much wraps up.
So how much is Ember basically the Rails equivalent to Node?
Is Ember the Rails equivalent for Node?
Right. Versus like Angular or Backbone. Like what?
Ember is definitely Rails for the front ends.
Right.
Yeah.
Until like a year ago, there wasn't any connection between Ember and Node.
Okay.
It was just that the community decided that we needed a better build system, and Node was the obvious platform to build the build system.
Okay.
Yeah, if you were to compare, like, Express is very much like the Sinatra for the Node world, and Sails is more like the Rails.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so Ember is just for the front end.
Yeah, so Ember CLI is kind of...
Ember CLI is a build system.
It's a Node app
Yeah.
that spits out Ember applications and that builds Ember applications.
So
And it gives you a development server too. So you can't serve JavaScript and CSS and stuff from a local file system.
Right.
A lot of times because the browser yells about the protocol.
Yeah,
Right.
So they need to be served from a server. So in order for you to be able to serve your Ember app, it stands up an Express server that runs on a port. So your Ember app, all your Ember application you wrote gets built into the JS files that get served from the development Express server. So that way you can go in your browser to localhost, port 4200 by default, and now you can use your Ember app. Then because you have that in place, that's what Josh was talking about, now that you've got that dev server sitting there, it's written in Express, wait a second, I'm in a dev mode, I want to see that my app can actually work. Man, I can start actually doing things in my dev environment. I can start throwing dev data at it now and do all kinds of things. So I imagine they had that in mind when they did it, but it became way more powerful than I think anybody realized it was going to.
You can do crazy things too. You can proxy to like one of your real API servers through Ember CLI, because through some of the hooks that he was showing, you have a middleware hook for Express middleware. So you can install your own middleware for your dev stack, and you can do anything you want. Basically.
Yeah, Node in general is really, really awesome about being able to, just like pull in things that you like, different packages that do different things you like, and put them in the system. I mean, it's built, all the pieces are built to kind of fit together in that overall framework. So yeah, it's really good about doing all that. And yeah, like they were saying, basically Ember CLI, they just chose to go with Node, and it just comes with a lot of stuff so that you can use it out of the box. And like Matt was saying, you can have it build, you can have it proxy out so that if you've got an API, you can actually use the API. We use it as a build tool, or you can use it as a build tool, so you can do a build and it'll just run through a lot of code that basically generates your final files that you can then put in your asset pipeline or whatever you want to do. But
It's something else you can do. So because the Ember CLI ecosystem is written together, when you write an add-on, the add-ons, once you have them installed, you're just using them. They're just JavaScript code that you're using inside of Ember. But there's an installation process that you can use. So what happens when you want to install a new Ember add-on? So I'm trying to think. So like the one I wrote for JS doc, you would type Ember install, Ember-CLI-JS doc. That goes out and gets that Ember add-on and it installs it in your application. That could be as simple as just doing underneath the npm install where that package is at. However, I have additional code in there that ties into the install scripts of Node that then ties into the hooks that Josh just showed as part of the Ember ecosystem. It will actually inspect your Ember application and say, okay, is this an Ember application or is this an Ember add-on that you're installing this add-on into? Because you can install add-ons into add-ons. Depending on that, I'm going to look at different folders. I'm then going to look at different files. And depending on which ones are there, the config file that I'm going to start you off with is going to be tailored to your specific environment. Now you've installed, you're like, oh, hey, look, I've got this config file. And then you go tweak it. And now every time you build your app, you're just reading that, and then you're never running that install. But because this is Ember CLI, or a Node, I have that ability. Like I have full file system capabilities because it's a Node app. So again, my install can make smart decisions about how to build that out of the box the first time configuration file based off of all that stuff. And then those hooks are never used again because they were install hooks. They're not build hooks. Okay. I mean, you can do anything. It's ridiculously powerful.
I would say the way that Rails is the whole idea of convention over configuration. And Node kind of flips that. So Node,
right.
It's really extensible, really flexible, can do a number of things, a number of different ways. But Node is one of those things, if you look at 15 people's take on an app, you're going to see wildly different architectures and even to the point where you're going to see different ways of even using different packages and stuff. So it kind of flips that on its head. It's a lot of little pieces you can put together however you want and use, but it's really fun. It's really, really good for if you've got a day to kind of prototype something. It's really good at that.
I'll be honest, that is one of the things that has actually kept me away from things like Ember or Angular or any of those other frameworks, just because I've got to deal with Node. And granted, Ruby is not necessarily that opinionated either, but going into Ruby, like when I started learning Ruby, it was obvious that there was an idiomatic way to write Ruby, and there's sort of here's a path here's the path that you should take, as we call it idiomatic Ruby, and it gave you that path to walk on. So you're like, okay, I know enough that I need to break away from the quote-unquote idiomatic stuff. Whereas like Node, I didn't find, or Ember, or any of those things, I didn't really find the, okay, here's the way, like here's the Node way, or here's the Ruby way, or here's the Rails way.
Ember is more a step in the Rails way of that, as far as they've definitely got ways you are intended to use things. It's not as well documented.
Right.
It's more of just you'll run into pain, and that kind of is a way to say, hey, you don't do it this way.
Well, one thing about an Ember app is you can write a whole Ember app without writing any Node code. All of your code features.
Yeah, and a lot of times, really,
like you really don't get into writing Node code unless you're doing Ember add-on type stuff.
Yeah, and I mean with Ember CLI, and I know it's getting better, and there are a lot of ways to do it now, but you can definitely write, like you were saying, proxy calls to a Rails backend or something. I mean, I do any project I do on the side, I typically do Ember front end, Rails backend, and a lot of times the hardest part of that is how do I automate the build process so that it works right and all that. Right. But yeah, you only have to Node if you want to tinker with it or mess with it. You don't have, there's no real requirement to know Node or understand how it's working. Right. It helps just because, if you run into issues or if you want to pull in packages, it helps to understand their Node and how does that work and all that.
Does that change? So this is the part where I admit to following Computer Cats on Twitter. And so this question is going to sound really more informative than it actually is. But is there a difference between like Ember 1 and Ember 2 and how it does server-side rendering and how you have to Node? Like does Node come more into play there? Or is it just, again, the back end for doing the server-side rendering?
The server-side rendering hasn't landed as like a production release yet.
Okay.
There's still like in alpha.
But even when it comes, it's more under the hood, right? It's supposed to be transparent from what I've seen.
Well, so it's going to be a Node server. Obviously, if you're going to be running JavaScript on the server, it's going to be Node. Right. So you'll have to have like a production Node environment in order to run it. It's called Fastboot. Right. But like I haven't played around with it yet because it's still pretty new. But it's not like you're going to be doing Node programming. You're just going to be running the app. That's it.
So the primary use case for Ember CLI is some page mapping, right?
Yeah.
It breaks down everything and then all the DOM and automation is done on the client side.
So
Ember CLI is a scaffolding tool to build your scheme. So if you wanted a people route or a person route, you'd say Ember generate, G is the shortcut, Ember generate route person. And it would create the route file, it would create the controller and the view, the template, it would do all those things for you. Then you could go into that, this is right for HTML for things. And then, so create all those files for you. Then you're like, now I want to actually build my app so I can use it. You need a Ember build. And you can build, that'll put development, you can Ember build for production. If you serve, that gives you that development server with a host that you can look at it off of as well. But it's the scaffolding to stand it up, and then it's also the tool that you use to build and identify and compile and all that stuff.
Well, what you said is, so Ember, so that's the distinction between Ember CLI and Ember. Ember CLI is just a command line interface. It's just the command line ability to do some of this stuff and build it up in this kind of architecture they build up for you. Ember, exactly what you're saying. Like I go to an Ember app, it pulls everything down, and then it's just turning in that one browser session. It's running, and whenever I click links, it's re-rendering the page, and it feels a lot like a traditional app, but it's all happening on the fly.
So usually for an Ember app, like you'll pull down your index.html, and it'll have like one div element with an ID, and then it'll have like some script tags, and when Ember boots up, it'll grab that div element and then stick your whole.
And so then Ember is writing the page and removing DOM.
It's watching
it. So it is pulling stuff out. It's not built to the user state model inside. It's actually using MVC to pull the model.
It's
so trying to look at it from Nova. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I want it to be really lightweight because React kind of is. But I don't know.
Yeah, so people have used. I personally have not. I know there's projects out there people use Ember with production.
Especially 1.13 would be a lot better for Node, just because it's a lot faster. Ember 1.13.
Yeah, the early Ember they had. It was great depending on what your needs were, but it had and I think this is where a lot of the single-page frameworks are kind of improving really quickly these days. There was a lot of inefficiency in their rendering, so there are a lot of times where changes would end up causing things to re-render, which is obviously slow. It didn't need to be. Glimmer is what they released that is it's a way more efficient way to determine what needs to be re-rendered and what doesn't. And so I think that there's a lot of focus right now on staying as lightweight as possible, staying as responsive as possible, and as fast as possible by being smarter about how this changed. Basically, instead of saying, well, this thing changed, so everything in the page needs to be updated because maybe it needs that. Now they can really more pinpoint what needs to be updated. But
and as far as the UI itself, like there's a bunch of stuff in jQuery, like really big buttons and stuff. Is that all inside Ember CLI or all inside Ember, or is that what you're
so
talking
Ember
about?
really, so like you can pull in, a lot of times what you'll do is you can pull in like Bootstrap, or I mean, you can use any CSS.
Ember gives you no UI.
Right.
It gives you the architecture for single page app, and it gives you a system tie events back and forth. You hold your own or find your own UI.
Now there are a lot of Ember add-ons that.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
So you
So
can
like
pull in,
but
Google
Ember
Bootstrap,
proper
it's-
does not.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can pull in a component library like a Bootstrap that wraps all the Bootstrap's components, or
There's foundation
I'm
ones, there's
playing around
material.
with one right now that does Google Material, like that whole, I forget what they call it.
But what you'd end up doing, is like your template file, you would just have like a button or an input or something like that, and it will be built in a way to where it can, you can have control over that in your Ember.js files. But at the end of the day, it's going into the DOM, and you can type classes onto it and different things like that and style it the same way. So if you built a page, you can easily rebuild that page in Ember. What Ember does mostly is more of the data management. Like, I want this to show something, and that something is going to be changed in my code in different places. And what Ember will do is say, okay, well, I'll make sure when you change it, I update it in the UI. That way, you don't have to do things like, hey, update this variable, and if this variable updated, go out and grab this DOM element and change its value. You don't have to do all that. That's the stuff it really shines in.
And they make it, one of their stated goals is, to that point, while they don't provide those types of things like out of the box, that's not their focus, they architected it in a way, but they don't need it in a way. So you can do material, foundation, Bootstrap. I was actually playing last week throwing Polymer web components into an Ember application. They had a few hiccups, and that's because of Polymer, not because of Ember. Even though it's 1.0, it's still got a few bugs in it. But yeah, they do a really great job of saying, this is the life cycles, give you a way to wire those two things together. And once you give it to us, we're willing to do that. You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah,
Just pass back and forth.
If you
So
start
it's
playing with
really
it,
a framework.
if you start playing with it and running it real specific like things, like hit up stuff on the meetup page or drop a message. I know we'd love to help it. Yeah, it's not necessarily the right tool for every job, but there's not much you can throw at it that it can't accomplish. There may be things where you're like, you know what, you don't really need to do a full Ember app to make that happen. That's overkill. But you can probably still do it in a lot of cases.